Jennifer Lucas with the Franchising Company, back for another edition of our Franchisor Zoom series. Today we're excited to be talking with Kitchen Guard.
And so a fast rundown, and then we'll dive in a little bit deeper. This brand is a required by law type of brand. The businesses that you're targeting have to have this service. So it's business to business. It's recurring revenue. It's manageable labor. It's a low cost to entry. There's a ton of territory available. Kitchen Guard. And so now we have Jamie with Kitchen Guard. Jamie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Hello, Matt and Jennifer. I am Jamie Lavigne. I am with Eversmith Brands under the Kitchen Guard brand. I've been in franchising come April for 18 years. I know I look 20, but I'm not.
You do.
Thank you.
Well, yes, thank you for joining us today. For those of you watching, as you start to hear more about Kitchen Guard and want more information, there is a link below for you to click, and it will allow us to check your territory to make sure it's available, and then we'll get with you and Jamie to talk about next steps.
So give us a little bit, give us the fast rundown of the business model.
Great. Well, I think one of the a few of the things that are really get me excited is, first and foremost, it's B2B. Let's face it, in franchising, B2C and home services is really crowded today, and B2B is not. There's not a huge bucket of B2B businesses, and you're spending somebody's budget versus disposable income. So therefore, it becomes even more recession resistant because of that. But the biggest and mic drop of all is that it is required by law, like you said. The NFPA 96 regulations is the same across the entire country. Some people think it's state specific. It is not. All 50 states have the requirements that every commercial kitchen exhaust system has to have a regular clean to code. Now, how often that is has a lot to do with how much food they're cooking, the type of food, and the fuel type. So that could be every 30 days, but the average is once a quarter. So that is required by law. Plus, we have multiple revenue streams to also help supplement, and it's contract based. So the salesperson for this brand doesn't have to keep reselling the same business every quarter. They sign them up on a 2 to 3 year contract. Unskilled labor, you've already touched on a few of these things, but all of these things, and the fact that there is a very minimal competition that's outside of a man in a van or that chuck in a truck. It's just ching, cha-ching, cha-ching, or check, check, check. These are all things that most of our candidates are looking for.
So you mentioned something, a couple things. It's required by law, and every commercial kitchen has to do it. So isn't there already somebody doing this?
Yes, that's a great question. And that's probably the biggest thing that our candidates get worried about is, well, if it has been around for decades, because it has, this NFPA 96 regulations, somebody's got to already be doing it. However, the demand is so high, and this is a dirty job, that very minimal people want to do it. So what we're seeing is that the bulk of most markets are being dominated by the independent man. This is that man in a van who is doing the work at night, because the cleaning of these kitchens get done after hours, and then he is sleeping during the day. So therefore, he's not able to take phone calls when there's issues and so forth. They're not doing any sales and marketing. They're not doing a lot of technology. They're, it's very antiquated. They're a handwritten invoice, right? And they don't really pride themselves on any kind of sales and marketing or customer service, et cetera, because they don't have to. The demand is that high. So what's left is these restaurant owners are frustrated because they are unreliable. They're not showing up. They're not doing a great job because they're getting shut down because they're not doing it to code. In reality, it takes two people to properly clean an exhaust system, one that's on the roof and one that's inside. But most men in a vans, is one man. How can you do both if that's the case? And they're not doing a fantastic job from a cleanliness standpoint. Our crews are going to tent in the exhaust system and create this plastic that runs into a bucket to contain the water, so that we're not spreading dirty water all over the kitchen floor, right? So the value that we bring to the restaurant owner is a professional sales and marketing approach, which they want and love. That's how what they get from every other vendor, like credit card processing companies. They want amazing customer service, reliability, and technology. And so that's what our brand is bringing to the table. So these independents have set the bar very, very low, and it's very easy to earn their business. And the good news is you don't need everybody's business. Our corporate location in 23 did 7,069,015 in Southern San Diego or Southern California. That was only 10 to 12% of the market share.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a big number.
Yeah. It's
So-
impressive, isn't it? Because most people hear 7 million and they're like, oh, wow, that must be like, I ask people, what percentage do you think that is? And they'll say, oh, 20 to 30%. I'm like, no, it's 10 to 12%. And they're just like, oh, wow. So there's so much opportunity here.
That's what I talk to candidates all the time about is you don't need every single customer in your market, regardless of the business, right? You need to figure out what slice of the pie you need and make sure that the demand is there for you to go out and get it. Circling back to something you said earlier, though, you talked about multiple revenue streams. Let's talk about what those look like.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another differentiator for us, excuse me, because there is one other big player in out there, but they only do the exhaust system cleaning. The independents only do the exhaust system cleaning. So when you can offer a restaurant multiple revenue services under one hood or one roof, then that appeals to them. So the exhaust system is number one. The second biggest one is what's called a filter exchange program. So you may or may not know this, but all hoods over ovens have these metal filters that are the first line of defense of capturing grease to prevent fires. Those filters have to be cleaned on a weekly to bi-weekly basis. Most is bi-weekly. What restaurants are doing now primarily is that they are actually hand washing them themselves in the sink. And they're not doing a good job because the sinks aren't big enough. They don't have a pressure washer to clean them. They're not soaking them long enough. So, and it's disgusting and dirty. Again, a dirty job, right? So we offer this exchange program where we'll go in, take your dirty filters and install clean, I shouldn't say brand new, but freshly cleaned filters into the system. And then we bring the dirty ones back and clean them. But when we're cleaning them, they're soaking for a very long period of time. And then they go through a proprietary system of a pressure washing, etc. So they are getting really, really clean. So that's our second biggest revenue stream. We also offer repairs to the exhaust system, anywhere from the hood all the way up to the roof where the actual exhaust fan is. And that is huge because there's a lot of times where right in the beginning of the day, the fan's not working and they can't open their restaurant unless somebody can come out there and fix it right away. So we give them that opportunity to be at their service quickly for those repairs. And then the fourth one is called Green Steam, which is really how Green Guard, which is Kitchen Guard's original name, began, is a steaming of the floors to get the grease off of it. And so that's called Green Steam. That's our fourth revenue stream.
I did not know
I
about the filter exchange program. Did you? But
I knew
like
it was. I knew it was called the filter exchange program, but I didn't know what it entailed. So this sounds complex to somebody like me. But how many employees and is there brick and mortar? Like what's the day-to-day look like? Is it easy to manage?
Yeah, those were a lot of questions all in one, Jennifer. So let's see which one I'm going to tackle first. You are required to have a light industrial space. 3 to 5,000 square feet is the average. This is going to have approximately 2 to 3 offices, a conference room, break room, but the bulk of the space is for the warehouse. And the biggest portion of that is for the filter exchange program, because you have to have start with at least one soak tank, but you'll grow. You have to have spot for the inventory of all these metal filters, because you're going to have a set for each restaurant that you're cleaning. And then it has a very large conveyor belt, and this is proprietary, where at the beginning we have this unique pressure washer. And in the cold weather climates, you also are going to be able to have to bring those vans to drive inside during the daytime when the vans aren't being used. So you do have to have that space, but this is that hub and spoke model, so that you really only, depending on how far away your additional territories are, you should be able to get away with just one location, or eventually go into a satellite location. So if your territories are contiguous, all touching, then you can strategically put that location right smack in the middle, and then logistically just service your all of your territories. Does that make sense?
How many hoods can one crew clean in a night?
That's a great question. So the average crew, which is 2 people in one van, can clean 2 kitchens a night. Now, if there's a kitchen that's a restaurant that is huge and has multiple hoods, that's a one night job, right? But the average crew can do 2 cleans a night, and they work 5 nights a week, which is Sunday night through Thursday night. So they can clean on average 10 cleans a week.
Nice. Okay. And I guess talk to us about what the initial investment looks like.
The low side, I'm just going to round up because it's easier, is around 174,000 to 308,500. And the big difference, because that's quite the spread, is whether they finance their initial equipment package and their first vehicle, or if they pay full cash for it. So for instance, in our item 7, the vehicle, you have to start with just one. The low side says 5,000, the high side says 60. 5,000 represents 3 months of finance terms, 60 represents buying the whole vehicle, right? Up
What
front.
kind of vehicle is that?
They can get any, Ford Transit, or Dodge, Pro Series or whatever. It doesn't really matter, as long as the tall height, that's what's important. What's being put in the back of these vans, and we encourage them to get used, by the way. And we put a nice wrap on it, but the inside's going to be nasty and dirty. It's essentially what gets put in is on this very unique system that can be taken in and out on a forklift. So if your power washer needs to be serviced, it's easy to get in and out. But you have a power washer, a big tank of water, and hoses is really what it boils down to, and some trash cans and plastic and those kind of things.
Is it easy to find employees that know how to do this, or do you train them?
That's another question that people get really nervous about, because the work is done at nighttime, right? The first shift is usually going out around 9 p.m. And they come back around 7 to 8 a.m., right? And so people are like, oh man, how hard is it going to find those people? Believe it or not, we're not having any difficulties, and neither are our franchisees. There is a slew of people that are, unskilled laborers that don't have a secondary education, that want these types of hours, because it allows them to make the most money, allows them to have the better work-life balance, because they don't work weekends, and they'll all sleep while their family's at school or work. They're working while their family's sleeping, but they always get to have dinner with them, right? So it's not that difficult, and you're hiring 2 people per van. So you're hiring 2 people at a time. So there's plenty of ability to slowly scale that, those crews up as you're buying and adding another van. They do not have to already have that background. They just have to be physically capable of getting, using a pressure washer, et cetera. We educate them and teach them on how to clean the exhaust systems. The bigger thing you're looking for is physical capability, and do they have history of working that moonlighting shift? Because if they can't stay awake, then they're useless to us, right? So it's not as difficult as it appears.
Now,
We have a ton of friends that work the night shift in different industries, so
some
we know
people
that.
some
Yeah,
people prefer it.
we know they're there. I just was more worried about the experience, but
So, and this isn't necessarily as important, but just out of curiosity, when they go out to these restaurants at 9, 10, 12 o'clock at night, is somebody from the restaurant there on site while they clean? No.
No, they are not. Now, if it's a new restaurant owner, they might be a little nervous and stuff, and so that could happen. But no, the restaurants that provide us with a key or a code to get into that restaurant. So we're there by ourselves. And when the account is set up, the fire life safety consultant, which is a fancy term for a salesperson, they set up a series of videos and photos for the account. So they're taking a video of how to enter, for the technicians to enter the restaurant, which door, where's the roof access. They do a video of all the exhaust system, where every hood is, everything, so that when a technician goes out, before they leave, they have an app that they're reviewing all that material before they leave, so they know exactly where to go. And that, by doing that, eliminates or helps to eliminate or reduce drastically calls back to the owner. We can't get into the restaurant, right? But they have that key, they have the video, etc.
makes sense. So what's the size of a territory?
It's an interesting thing. So most, franchisors are building territories on population and income and households. Because this isn't home services, we don't care about any of that, right? We build our territories on what's called an RFSC count, Retail Facility Service Center. So that represents restaurants and bars. And you guys know I have a heavy Boston accent, so I have to stop myself from saying bars. Restaurants and bars. But the important thing is that is just the bulk of their business, but not all of it. So we build the territory on the bulk of their business, restaurants and bars. The RFSC count minimum is around 1,200, maximum 2,500. Most territories are right in that 2,000 range, but that's just the beginning of their opportunity, because they can service every single type of school system, anywhere from elementary, high school to universities. They can service hospitals, churches, convenience stores that serve food trucks. Think of any type of theme park, right? A zoo, a water park, any place that is serving hot food to people means that there's a commercial kitchen situation, and it has to legally be cleaned by law.
I think that's a huge selling point, because a lot of people just think of bars and restaurants,
Bars.
schools and prisons, and any place that has that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, there's a ton of that opportunity, but just the extra is nice. It's a bonus.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
What
so think of
about-
stadiums, like when you go to a concert and you're going to buy that really expensive, a pizza or whatever, or you're at a baseball game and getting a Fenway, Park dog, that had to be cooked in a kitchen that has a commercial exhaust system.
True.
What is the average ticket?
So our corporate location, average client spend is $7,000 a year. With an average clean of quarterly. So it's not an exact science, but incorporates all of our services together. So there's going to be some highs and some lows, obviously.
Okay.
What have we not covered?
Well, I know Jennifer asked earlier, like 20 questions all in one. So I can come back to a couple of those situations. Jennifer, you asked, how hard is it? How difficult? How many people? That type of thing. So we want our owners to work on the business, not in the business. So this is something that's really important to us and will differentiate us compared to our other bigger competitor, is they have to hire their fire life safety consultant, their salesperson. They cannot be their own salesperson because we want that person to put horse blinders on and just go after those contracts with the restaurants, right? And we train that salesperson. Our training for sales and marketing is super in depth. They also cannot do the cleaning. We don't want them cleaning kitchens, okay? They're going to learn how to do it at training so that they know how to manage it, but they are not doing that. They are allowed to have a general manager and be semi-absentee, but they still have to understand they have to go through all the training. They have to manage that trainer. And if not the trainer, the general manager, but if for some reason that general manager bails out, they've got to be able to willing to jump in until they find somebody else, right? So in reality, though, the owner, if they are managing their initial staff, to getting it up and running, or continue to manage them as they grow if they decide to be owner operator. They're managing the trust and respect in their community. They've got to get out there and network with the restaurant association, shake hands, go eat at some restaurants, gain a few pounds. There's a major benefit for that. And then they obviously are managing their profit and loss statement, right? If they put a general manager in place, the general manager now takes away that part of managing people, right? But you start with a small crew. So a salesperson, a general manager potentially, and you hire 2 crew members for your first van. And then you slowly grow that team from there. So it's very, very scalable. And at the end of the day, it's not rocket science. There's 2 major pieces. Forward-facing sales and marketing. So definitely people that have that sales and marketing background, this is perfect for them. And then the secondary piece to it is it's very logistics at the end of the day. And I think the logistics side is the easier side because we make it simple with the technology and so forth.
No, I love this business model because of the fact that it's a required service, right? You don't have to go out and convince your customer that they need you. They have to have you. So now it's just a matter of, hey, this is what we do better than who you're using currently. And to your point earlier, you don't have to convince everybody. If you get 10%, you're going to have a pretty nice customer base and build a pretty sizable business. So I love that about what Kitchen Guard provides to candidates. And, one other thing to think about, and this is something I talk to candidates about a lot too, is you don't necessarily have to be passionate about what you're doing. You mentioned earlier, this is a dirty business. I would start and own and operate a porta potty cleaning business tomorrow if I knew I could make money, because I'm passionate about business and making money. Same thing applies here. Not a clean business, maybe not the sexy thing you would think of, but there's money to be had and it's a required service. And so that's the passion. You're operating a business. To your point, you're not going and cleaning the hoods.
Absolutely. But there's also a passion to it as well from, if you look at it from a perspective of, we are trying to, we call ourselves the guardians. We're guarding the kitchen. We're guarding the employees and the business from fire, right? That's why we call our salespeople the fire life safety consultant. This is appealing to that emotional side to these restaurant owners of, hey, you're paying somebody to do this and they're not even doing it to code. That means you're putting your employees and your customers and your business at risk. If you have a fire, even if it's a minor one, your business is shut down for a couple of weeks, right? So we want to do it right and properly proper so that we can guard your employees, your customers, and your business. So you have that ability to tap into that passion side of it as well. In fact, we had recently, this is a crazy story, a candidate that was coming to the Meet the Team Day who was involved in the fires. His house burnt down right before leaving for the Meet the Team Day out in LA. And you'd think that that person is like, I guess I need to wait and put everything on hold. He is more motivated than ever because that happened to his family, because of the fire, to get into this business. How amazing is that, right? So, yeah.
See what happens and what you've gone through and don't want anybody else to experience it.
Exactly. So,
Right.
but I agree with you. Otherwise, you don't have to have a passion to have, to have a great business. And you could have a passion for food. Like I said, there's some serious side benefits to this industry because you will rub elbows with lots of restaurant owners and you'll learn what restaurants not to eat at, by the way. And you'll learn about all the amazing restaurants. And when you become friends with them, you actually get invited to their weddings and you get great reservations and sometimes you don't pay, which is
The
awesome.
passion, yeah, the passion is operating a business, right? Whatever product or service that you're providing, it's the day-to-day operations and building a team and scaling and building that business to be a sellable asset at some point in the future. That's the passion, at least for me, when it comes to businesses.
Yep, I completely agree.
All right, Jamie, thank you so much for taking the time today. For those of you interested, again, there is a link below. Click it, and we will get with Jamie to make sure your territory is available and talk through those next steps.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you. Bang the shield.
Talk to you soon.